Welcome to Oddball and happy Halloween. I'm Charlotte Wilder. That's Amin Elhassan. Cool new little intro for Halloween there, Amin.
Yeah, it's the usual theme music with just screaming in the background.
I'm very excited about this episode, Amin, because we recently went on Pablo Torre Finds Out to talk about something that we've come to learn more about than I ever thought I would, which is the alleged ghost haunting NBA players at the Skirvin Hotel in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, we went on Pablo Torre Finds Out to explain it to Pablo in costumes that might seem a little bit insane. In 2008, the Seattle Supersonics moved to Oklahoma City. In the NBA, in the collective bargaining agreement, there is a certain class of hotel you're allowed to put your team in.
Right, typically it's like a Ritz-Carlton.
Yes. Well, the closest thing to a hotel of that stature in Oklahoma at the time in 2008 and for quite a while thereafter was the Skirvin Hotel. Pablo, the Skirvin has a deep, dark secret.
It was founded by this guy, W.B. Skirvin, William Skirvin, an Oklahoman. He was just womanizing his way around Oklahoma City. And the legend is that he had an affair with a housekeeper named Effie. Effie got pregnant, and to prevent a scandal, WB locked her in a room on the 10th floor of the hotel. Effie had the baby, allegedly went mad, jumped out of the window holding the infant. I mean, horrific stuff. And she has apparently been haunting the hotel ever since, Pablo. So you guys can all check out Pablo Torre Finds Out for so much more. It was a really fun conversation with Pablo, and he asked some very good questions, as he tends to do. But in our last few weeks of reporting, we've talked to players, broadcasters, fans, every kind of NBA figure, just to see, is the Skirvin haunted? Is it plausible that this hotel is haunted by ghosts?
More importantly, if there is a ghost, is that ghost affecting NBA games, maybe even NBA Finals games? As we told Pablo, the Thunder have one of the best home court advantages in all the league. Their record is 7th best since they moved to OKC, but they're just average on the road before you start saying, oh, of course, when you have KD and Westbrook and Harden and then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and all that, they were tanking for a strong couple of years there, including their first year in Oklahoma. So do the Thunder have a home court advantage because of ghosts? We had to go and find out for ourselves.
Okay, so let's address this first question first, obviously. Is the Skirvin haunted? Because a few people we talked to said absolutely not. Celtics play-by-play announcer Sean Grandy, who stayed there about 7 times, he was emphatic.
I am of the belief that anyone that feels they have had an unusual experience or heard unusual things at the Skirvin never watched an episode of Scooby-Doo.
It's a big week for Scooby-Doo on Oddball.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough, Sean, but allow me to offer you counterpoint. Former NBA All-Star Brad Miller, who stayed at the Skirvin as a member of the Chicago Bulls.
I was there with the Bulls. Derrick Rose grabbed his blanket and slept on the floor with James Johnson. He didn't want to be in his own room, so he was scared. And James obviously was a karate badass guy. So I was like, you guys did what? Bunked up together, because Derrick didn't want to be in the room by himself because everyone was scaring everybody about the story of it being haunted and everything.
I love that this Charlotte of Derrick Rose being afraid of ghosts and thinking to himself, James Johnson could kick their ass though. He can roundhouse.
Yeah, and you know what I mean? I completely agree with it. I would take James Johnson over a ghost. I also, having stayed in the Skirvin now, I'm I get it. Not just physically being I cannot be in here alone, but we'll get to that. Here is what Paul Pierce remembers.
I will say I knew about it when I got there, and there was, in my room, I remember that floor I was on, I think maybe 8th or 9th floor, and I heard noises in the hallway, and it just was noise. I don't know if it was somebody running or somebody walking or banging on the door, but I did hear noises. But I'm just not afraid of that stuff. I mean, I just was well, if they're going to come in and get me, come get me.
NBA players are notably superstitious, so that wasn't that weird to me, Charlotte.
No, I know, but then we started talking to broadcasters, and they had also had experiences. We talked to Kristen Ledlow, former courtside reporter, lovely person, who stayed at the Skirvin multiple times.
I had left the room one day and I just put the do not disturb sign on the door and I leave when I leave. And so I know that nobody had been in the room and all of my drawers were open the same amount, like
No.
2 or 3 inches. And then this morning, as I was researching, and I don't remember if it was ABC News or the New York Times, but this is not some silly little blog website. It says what her ghost most notably does is leave drawers open.
It's so amazing that she didn't believe it at all. She almost turned us down for the interview, said I didn't have any experiences until she was reminded of that story. All right, here's ESPN and Nets broadcaster Ryan Ruocco, who stayed at the Skirvin twice.
The first time I stayed there, had a lovely experience. Then the second time I stayed there, I stayed in a suite, and I couldn't really get my lights on in parts of the suite. When I went to go to bed, because I was only getting in there late at night, and I couldn't quite get the lights the way I'd wanted to, and I was settling in. I should also add, it's not just that I couldn't get the lighting right, it's that there was a fairly consistent flickering from, I think it was the bathroom light that just kept flickering. I start just hearing a tapping over and over again in the bathroom, and I'm like, what is that? And of course I go to the bathroom, I don't see anything. I go back to lay down. I keep hearing a tapping. I actually peek out in the hall, don't see anything. I'm like, what is going on? So I'm like, okay, this is weird. I actually go down to the front desk and ask them, can I get just a regular room? I want a room where I can see everything because the tapping is coming from a place I cannot see while I'm in my bed currently in that suite. So they put me in a different room and I am able to go to sleep, but still a little freaked out. And the next morning, my analyst told me about them swearing they had shut the shower water off and it being on and it freaking them out in their room. I understand the Skirvin has its charm. I can understand why a lot of people enjoy it. I just don't think that's going to be the hotel for me moving forward.
All right, so you got some flickering lights, some dripping water, some drawers are left mysteriously open. You see why I wasn't scared, right? This is all easily explainable. But we did have one testimonial that was, let's just say it was a little different.
My name is Adrian Chavarria. I am with the Houston Rockets. I've been their Spanish radio broadcaster for 29 years. One experience that sticks out the most in my 29-year career is staying in that hotel right there. This was just a regular night. I think we had just gotten in from whatever city we were in, and I went to bed normal, like 10 o'clock. And then around 2:17, I got up to go to the bathroom. All the lights were off. I turned the light on, used the bathroom, turned the light off, went back to bed. And when I put my covers, I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden I felt like somebody had turned on the lights. And I was like, I'm sure I turned the lights off. So I open my eyes, and there's this figure standing at the end of my bed. I didn't know what to do. I mean, I was like, okay, am I dreaming? But then I looked at the clock, and it was like 2:18, 2:19. So not much time had passed since I'd gotten up. So all these thoughts came to my mind, like, okay, what do I do? Do I run? Do I scream? Do I just keep quiet? Do I hide? And then at some point I said, well, maybe I can grab my phone real quick and see if I can take a picture so people, can believe it and people can believe it as well. So by the time I turned to the nightstand to grab the phone and I looked back, this person, this ghost was literally on top of me, like floating face to face. And I still get goosebumps telling the story. I still get my hair that sticks up the back of my neck. You knew it was a woman. It was kind of glowing. And I guess I wasn't her type because she got real close to my face, looked down, up and down, like checking me out. And then all of a sudden she just moved towards my right and went through the wall. And that was it. And I got up, I turned on the lights on, I called my wife. I had to tell somebody. And, I guess she kind of believed me, but to this day, for some reason, people don't think this happened, but I know what I saw. I don't believe in ghosts, but what I saw was real.
It's wild. And Effie, the female, the woman who jumped out of the window with her baby and the female ghost people have reported seeing, she's been known to play some pranks like that. But I mean, ghost stories are fun. Obviously, that's why we're here. That's why we dug into this. But this is a basketball show. So we needed to know, does this affect the NBA at all?
Well, I think we got to start in the beginning. The Skirvin ghost story became a story in the NBA starting in 2010, and it started when the New York Knicks stayed there. The next day, they played the Thunder, and they got blown out by 20 points, Charlotte.
Yeah, and it's funny, because after the game, several of the Knicks players said that the ghost was at least partly to blame for the loss. And this includes Eddie Curry, who you will remember is a 7-foot-tall center who was so scared he asked to sleep on the floor of Nate Robinson's room.
Now, to remind you guys, Eddie Curry is 7 feet tall. Nate Robinson is 5'9". And this story was so crazy, we had to pay people to animate it for us.
I went to use the bathroom. I came back out. My TV was on already. And I'm just like, nah, that's kind of weird. I know for a fact I did not turn my TV on. And it was on some like crazy channel, like some spooky devil type. I'm like, nah, bro, Exorcist type movie. I'm like, nah, this is nah. So at that point, I hit Nate. I'm like, Nate, what you doing? It is late at night. It's already like 10, 11, 12 at night. I stayed in Nate's room until he kicked me out. He literally was like, Eddie, I cannot stay up any longer. I go back to my room. It was definitely the worst night's sleep I ever got. I definitely found myself reading the Bible that night. Went to sleep for a couple hours, went down to shoot around. When I was in shoot around, it was kind of the discussion that morning. It was like, man, you know, I'm the only one that felt weird in this hotel room. And everybody was like, nah, man, it was definitely something strange. Nate was giving me a lot of crap about it. Like, man, Eddie tried to stay in my room all night. Man, he's scared. He this, he that. I'm like, yeah, man, it was something not right. So then, now mind you, the whole team is at shoot around. We all had to go down there at the same time. The whole team, Mike Martinez, the equipment guy, everybody who came with the New York Knicks is at the shoot around. I get back to my room, I open my door, everything is on my bed. Literally everything, everything that's touching the floor is on my bed. It's a chair on my bed. There's my bags are on my bed. All my clothes that I took off and that I had on the floor, everything is literally just compiled on my bed. Like everything in the room was on my bed. And I said, nah. I'm like, I know somebody did this. And I just started going down the checklist of like, who could have did it? And I'm like, everybody who could have done this was at the meeting. I had a Rolex in there. I had money in there. Nothing was missing at all. This was something totally different, man. Everything was on the bed, bro. I've never felt comfortable in hotels since I went to the Skirvin. I promise to God. I've never felt comfortable again.
His entire hotel visiting experience worldwide has been ruined because of this spiritual activity. I got a text from Nate Robbins because, you know, when we heard this, said, hey, Nate, can you tell us the story? And I texted him and he said, I have no comments. I said, we just, you know, want to see if we could get on a Zoom interview with you. And he said, and I quote, I'll give you one quote, that hotel, I'll never stay there again.
I mean, it's wild. I mean, we weren't there, so we can't know for sure what really happened. But we do know that Eddie Curry on the record says the ghost affected an NBA game.
Would the game have gone differently if you stayed at a different hotel?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's hard enough to play in the NBA. Now, once you go onto a court and you're dealing with that type of stuff, you're dealing with no rest, you're dealing with just your mind going all over the place. I think that the ghost in the Skirvin affects a lot of games.
And I think he hits upon a very important point there, which is the impact is real, even if you don't believe the ghosts are. You're out of routine, you're out of rest, you're not calm as you usually are. That, of course, is going to impact your performance on the floor the next night.
Right. And look, if that's a regular season game, okay, fine. If the ghost has an impact, it's one game out of a long season. But Curry was also on the 2012 Heat, and they played Oklahoma City in the finals that year. And he had something to say about that, too.
Talk in the locker room was like, bro, we got to stay at the Skirvin. We knew we had to stay at the Skirvin.
And that was like, oh, we have to stay at the Skirvin like that?
Yeah, not Russell, not KD. No, we got to stay at the Skirvin. Everyone knew that this hotel was haunted. Everyone knew the story about the lady and her baby and all that stuff and her jumping to her death and all that stuff. Like, why are we staying at this hotel? I couldn't figure it out.
So the Heat won that series 4-1, but they did lose that first game, which coincided with the beginning of their stay at the Skirvin. Also, Eddie had another scare there the second time.
And I had the same type of experience where it was like not as much stuff on the bed, but there was still stuff on my bed when I came back from practice, for sure, 100%.
Do you think that the ghost at the Skirvin could have potentially affected a game in the NBA Finals?
1,000%.
Think about what he said. He said, not KD, not Russ. It was the Skirvin that they were talking about on the bus. So if the freaking NBA Finals, Charlotte, were affected by this alleged ghost, we had to get to the bottom of this.
So we flew to Oklahoma City. Welcome back to Oddball. I mean, we got to pick up our story because last we left, we were getting on a plane to Oklahoma City to see exactly what was going on with the Skirvin. And when we got there, we talked to a medium who checked out our rooms. We talked about this on Pablo. I wore a horse costume. It's a whole thing we don't fully have time for. So let's move to the night of, because I was freaked out. I was freaked out in my room. My shoulders were tense. I felt weird energy. And I mean, you were playing it cool, but I feel like you were a little scared too.
We went to the game earlier. We talked to players. We talked to coaches. We talked to broadcasters.
We did.
We got a pretty good idea. We talked to a medium earlier.
It's starting to hit me that I'm going to be in that hotel room by myself.
It's funny. We had a great dinner tonight, and all I could think of on the ride home is, man, there might be incredible paranormal activity in my room.
So
look, man. As by the way, shout out to that parking deck where we got kicked off not too long afterwards. So Charlotte, we actually have video of you right before you went to bed. Take a look.
Unfortunately. Okay, final update from the Skirvin before I go to bed. I have my mouth guard in, and I made my husband stay on the phone with me while I got ready for bed until right now. Too scared to turn the light off. I can't believe I'm doing this. I feel very brave. Mouth guard's good, right? Okay. Good night and good luck. Oh, it's maybe my finest moment. Really glad I recorded that myself. Like I did that to myself, literally. I mean, anyway, so what happened that night? For me, I fell fast asleep. I was so scared leading up to going to bed and then just completely passed out. It was like an absolutely beautiful night of sleep, except I think when it started getting light out, I feel like I was sort of vaguely aware of the sound of like something either dropping on the floor above me, but it sounded like someone rolling dice on a table. And the medium had told us that this was a place where there was a lot of gambling and that there was especially a lot of activity in my room. So I was completely, in the moment, I think because it was light out, I was sort of like, well, maybe someone just dropped stuff. But then as I was waking up, I was like, oh, wow, that sounds like dice. And there was gambling here.
The dice game broke out in Charlotte's room amongst the ghosts. Yeah, for me, we got hooked up from our producers with all types of Ghostbuster equipment, infrared lights and special cameras and stuff. And I had them all set up and audio recording equipment and said, all right, we're going to catch some ghosts. Let me wait for these ghosts. I've knocked out. We had such a big dinner that night. I was so tired. I fell asleep. And then the next morning I woke up and the medium had said, you might hear some thumping noises. And I was like, whatever. But then I heard this weird noise.
Okay, so first of all, I mean, very classily done to take a video on the toilet. You did a good job of not showing much. But I mean, as I'm looking at our script here, and we are being surprised because apparently our producers caught this happening multiple times overnight. We need to bring in Matt Ford, our producer. You get in here right now. We need to know what is going on.
Hey, guys. I don't know. I'm still wrapping my head around this experience. It sounds like you guys sort of had an easier time than I did. There were 3 things that happened to me that were weird. The first was when I got to our room, I couldn't find my room key. I was looking everywhere. They only gave me one room key. And so I said out loud, hey, if a ghost took my room key, can I have it back now, please? sort of as a joke, and it fell out of my pocket. It was easily explainable, right? Like I just didn't look hard enough, right? But like it was just one of those things. And then after I said goodnight to you guys, this is later, my shower was running inexplicably. I hadn't touched the knob. The drain was open. It seemed like it had been kind of going for a while. It sounded a lot like Ryan Rucco's story of the tapping. And that just really freaked me out. So I, like Charlotte, I slept with the lights on. And then in the morning, I woke up and I was like, this is dumb. What did I bring all my friends here for? This was a waste of time. And then we had talked to some people that said their mirrors hadn't fogged up when they showered.
Yeah.
So I tested that. And in the process, I closed the door to the bathroom and I discovered later that it locked by itself. And at that point, I was just sort of like, all right, I can't rule this out. Seems a little bit too weird.
So you're in the shower, you lean forward to shut the door so that the room can steam up and you can see whether the mirror fogs or not. And you grabbed it by the handle?
No. I gave it a tap. I gave it like a nice tap, not a shove. Not my full body weight. And it seemed to slam like really hard on itself. And when that happened, I was sort of like, that's strange. I didn't put that much weight behind it. Why did it slam so hard? But I didn't really think about it. And then when I stepped out, I noticed that the mirror fogged in a very unusual way and that the door was locked.
Okay, so I also had a similar thing where I said, you guys were in the room with me. I said, okay, because the medium had told us if you tell the spirits you're there, they might give you a sign. I said, if you're here, give me a sign. You know, I come in peace. We just want to know if you're out there. And right as I finished saying that, the refrigerator went on and started buzzing. My shower also fogged in a weird way. And I guess this brings us to the question, my dudes, is there a ghost or not? And I think my verdict is still the most boring one of all time. Like, I don't know, which is almost more unsettling than if I had come out of there with an actual opinion about it. Instead, it sent me on this like existential spiral about like spiritually, what do I believe in? And how does this affect it? And blah, blah. So I think I'm pretty confused, but I'm also like very open, like, I don't know, because then I got back and I was like, there are no ghosts. So I'm very confused. I mean, how are you feeling?
I feel the same as what I felt when I got to Oklahoma. There's no such thing as ghosts, guys. If it's such, like the idea that like Effie's ghost is haunting the hotel because of this traumatic experience of having a child out of wedlock and then committing suicide. If traumatic experiences were the prereq for being a ghost, then Oklahoma would be overrun by the ghosts of Native Americans alone, let alone all the other people who have been wronged in that state in this country's history. So I just don't believe in ghosts. I don't think any of these things, while they are odd and peculiar, amount to paranormal activity.
Matt?
There's a ghost. I'm going to say it. Eddie Curry can't be wrong. That shower thing was too weird. There's a ghost. I'm saying it.
I just keep coming back to like, if I don't believe in ghosts, what happened to those people? And on Pablo's show, Pablo was like, I'm really jealous I haven't just seen one because then I would know. And that's how I felt watching Adrian's testimony about the ghostly, glowing woman. I was like, I wish I had just seen something like that. But then you probably feel nuts because no one believes you.
Yeah, I mean, look, Ron Artest is one of the people, Meta World Peace, who talked about not only was he accosted by ghosts, he was accosted by multiple ghosts, and some of them touched him in particular places, and he didn't appreciate it at all. So, I mean, the people have had these experiences. I don't doubt that they fully believe they had an experience, but as I said on Pablo's show, the flip side of this is, I spoke to an assistant coach who was with the Knicks at that time, who told me, like, look, these guys, from the moment they're on the plane to they're on the bus, all they do is talking about ghosts. So, of course, when they get in their room and they turn out the lights, their mind is going to go to ghosts the whole time. I mean, hell, Eddie Curry told us that's what the Heat did during the NBA Finals.
Yeah, and I think I was firmly in that headspace when we went there, and I was like, oh my God, I think I believe this. And then getting out of it, I become skeptical again, but it doesn't really matter. Because if you believe they're there, then they're there. And if they're there, then it can affect your play and your routine. And it's just it's mental. And it's a long season, and it all makes a lot of sense. So our time is up for TV, but we've got a few more things, a few more opinions to share with you. So check out our YouTube show and our podcast if you all haven't already. Have a great Halloween.
Jordan's still the GOAT, though.
welcome back to some bonus content for our special Halloween investigation of the Skirvin Hotel. Amin's shaking his head, but we just gave our verdicts on whether we think the Skirvin is haunted. I still don't know, but sort of leaning towards no, but then I can't explain it, so then I lean towards yes. So let's show you what a few more people think. Here's who we got, Amin.
We got Brad Miller here.
I'd say, yeah. I put a stamp of there's something going on in there, like, without a doubt.
So that was Brad Miller, former All-Star center with the Chicago Bulls. Here's Adrian Chavarria from the Rockets. He's the Spanish language broadcaster, and he's sure he saw a ghost in his room, but don't take it from him. Take it from the Rockets.
I started seeing my colleagues once, in the morning and walking around, and I told a couple of them, they didn't believe me. They're like, no way. But then when I got to the arena that night, I'm not going to mention who it was, but there was somebody else that worked for the team at the time. And we were sitting on the bench watching the guys warm up. And I told him the story, and he just kind of laughed, and he says, well, let me tell you my story. And apparently this person had some kind of experience as well on the same night.
So that was a high-ranking person, right? So the Rockets no longer stay at that hotel anymore. I don't think any of the NBA teams stay there anymore. But Eddie Curry still feels the impact of his time at the Skirvin years later.
I've never felt comfortable in hotels since I went to the Skirvin. I promise to God, I've never felt comfortable again. If you think this is some BS, go. I dare you to go stay at that hotel. I dare you to go stay at the hotel. And if you don't feel something, you're going to at least feel something when you go in that room. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. And even if you don't even know, you could take a friend, an unassuming person who doesn't know any history. I bet you they tell you something because there's something there.
You know what I wish, Charlotte? I wish we had brought one of us on the team who was just sequestered from all the research and everything the medium said, and it just had an honest-to-God night at the Skirvin. I wonder what that would have been like.
I do too. I mean, I feel what Eddie Curry's saying, though. Like, I was first put in a room on the 7th floor. I walked into a room on the 10th floor, which is supposedly the haunted floor, and it felt different. I felt immediately like, ugh. Whether that's because I knew it was a haunted floor or not, who's to say? But Sean Grandy doesn't buy it.
All that said, I am a firm believer that if you believe the hotel is haunted, then the hotel is haunted, and your mind will take you to wherever you want to be led. And that has been my experience, whether you think you're in a slump, or you think you can't miss a shot, or you think you can't make a shot, or you think a hotel is haunted. If you're convinced that's the case, then that's the case.
Kristen Ledlow told us her theory.
It's the same thing as like the Miami flu that we're talking about, right? And it's like, oh, everybody who goes in town to play the Heat sometime around their birthday all of a sudden wakes up and is feeling a little under the weather. It could be something like that. Like the Oklahoma City flu is less so about what you were doing in the city the night before, and maybe more so about the fact that you got really broken sleep for a very limited number of hours.
Kristen makes a very good point of me, because even people who don't believe in the ghosts at the Skirvin still think there's enough going on that it matters.
Yeah, here's 3-time NBA champ Danny Green, who stayed there a bunch of times during his long and illustrious NBA career.
I think, when it comes to athletes, and we're based off mental and routine, when something throws that off, it definitely has an effect. And it could be anything that you may or may not believe in, but either way, hearing those rumors, those things certain things stemming from the, when there's smoke, there's fire. The smoke that you hear about, like the smoke that you see about these things, could affect you even if you don't believe in it.
So you heard Danny say it right there. Whether the ghost is real or not is kind of irrelevant, because perception is reality. And so if you think there's a ghost, you're going to be scared of the ghost. You're not going to get the good enough rest and all that. And you're going to play probably less than optimally the next day, and it all stands to reason.
I think too, it's just all he put it a way that I wish I had, because it's exactly what it is. We have these ideas in our heads. Anything that throws you off of your routine, whether you're tired, whether there's something going on in your personal life, anything can get into your head. And if someone tells you there's a ghost, I mean, I'm evidence. I felt really weird in that hotel. Regardless, I'm so glad we went on this journey, Amin. Thanks for ghost hunting with me. And I don't know, I hear there's a haunted hotel in Milwaukee called the Pfister, so it might not be the last one we visit. And
we go to the Pfister. We go to the Pfister. I'm bringing a Proton pack. I'm bringing full Ghostbusters deal. we're going all in. And I'm going to drink a lot of coffee. I don't drink coffee. I'll drink coffee that night to stay up all night to see if I can catch a ghost.
If you thought you heard somebody in the bathroom in Skirvin, wait till you do that in Milwaukee.
The fister.